Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing fantastic. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all having a great day. Hope you had a good yesterday and hope you have a good tomorrow. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. The news, oh my gosh, the news is once again all over the place, but so if you haven't been really paying attention, we are, and if you haven't, then you are fantastic. I don't know how you're doing it. Prices are not where prices are supposed to be. That's the easiest, clearest, nicest, fastest way of saying it. We're getting to the point where, at least from my vantage point, everyone is now putting their 2 Satoshis into the pot to try and say why, when, if, how, the reasoning as to why Bitcoin is currently not over 100,000. I'm going to give you some news. I'm going to tell you what I think it is. I'm going to tell you what other people think is also going on. But also something is up. I'm noticing once again, my vantage point, we've gotten to the point where the market has not moved for so long that I'm seeing this a snarky comment kind of thing going on. I'm not pointing any fingers. I mean, I think years ago it would have bothered me far, far more. But it's how I know that we've gotten to that chart where it's depression, happy, suckers rally, oh, this can't be, it's not going to happen, euphoria, and then kind of dismay, that kind of thing again. And I realized that during this cycle, regardless of the fact of where prices might be, and we are much higher than they were even a year and a half ago, we're in kind of this sadness valley. And I think a lot of people don't want to necessarily admit it. Even if prices do go up by 3-4%, everyone is literally always holding their breath in anticipation of seeing if we're going to pass by these crazy numbers. Will we get past 74? Can we get past 77? Is Bitcoin going to 84, which is now currently the new number that everyone's throwing out there for June, beginning of July. Remember, we had the 150,000. Now I'm seeing, for some reason, the number 84,000 everywhere. A lot of people are, now once again, using their charts, using their own analysis. There's a lot of analysis channels. I've told you before, these channels are ridiculously popular. I used to watch them from afar, years ago to see what was going on. And once again, not knocking anyone's groove, but they're usually always wrong. And I realize this now, or even more so now, because the market isn't really in our control. I say things like rich people control the market, and I understand it, but I don't really get it until I see price action and movements like this. I think it's nearly impossible for us to understand the full significance of what's happening in this market. From the vantage point of, we may understand or get it as to a couple of years, this was maybe even a decade, time is flying by, it's years ago, where there was a lawsuit against JP Morgan about the manipulation of the gold and silver market. And I think because we understand, me and you, we get the words manipulation, gold and silver, we go, something's amiss there. And they also lost that lawsuit as well because they were clearly manipulating the market. But we don't understand the amount of money that's actually at play. You may hear $1 billion and you understand the concept of $1 billion, but you don't understand the power that $1 billion actually has. Nonetheless, if a company, a bank is willing to fraud, allegedly, and to, make sure that they do something worth hundreds of billions of dollars so that when they do get fined, they're still making out like bandits with $99 billion. It's something along those lines. When you hear, or when I say that Bitcoin is at this point in its history where it's gotten so big It's caught the attention of wealthy people, institutions, banks, central banks, governments around the world, especially if you've been watching the last 3 videos on this channel. You see exactly what I'm talking about. There's a huge like notice, like everyone, like if you ever seen Inception, there's that part where like you do something and like the brain notices and everyone kind of turns to you. This is where we are. It kind of gets thrown off for us because we see Bitcoin's not at $8 million yet, so we assume that the attention isn't that heavy. And I think it's only going to be even more insane when we actually, my opinion, when we actually do eventually pass by $1 million. So I've seen people online in the last, I think 4 or 5 days alone, little snarky comments. This guy clearly doesn't understand the market. Well, TMI, you need to learn more. Well, this guy, and it's always when people refer to me as this guy, and I click on people's profiles. It's usually it's other people who have like just created YouTube channels who are trying to get like popular or like fame by like saying something negative to me, hoping that it'll draw attention to their channel. And it's like, no, if you want to start your channel with negativity as a tip, don't. Start your channel like with yourself, your own personality. It'll grow from there if you are just yourself, not trying to be mean, wicked, evil, or mean-spirited. It's not going to work. I completely promise you. But a lot of people are saying that according to their charts, I've seen everything. I've seen people talking about cup and handles. I've seen people talking about the Bart Simpson movements where like a choppy or upside inverse choppy, like actually forming Bart Simpson's head. What are the other ones? These like swoops, these inverted things, the golden crosses. I've seen all of them. And if you've been paying attention or looking at these things since around March, they've all been incorrect. But I'm not, once again, not trying to knock it. I think there is some good spiritedness inside of all of this where people are actually trying to figure out like what's going on with this chart. Especially as I show you some of the news that we actually have today. I think for good reason, with good reason, you do have reason right now to be annoyed or agitated. I think about a month after we started getting the first like indications that Bitcoin was going sideways, going down a little tiny bit, that's when the news began to be like, well, we're consolidating. It's an accumulation phase. If you missed the news, it must have been 2 or 3 weeks ago. We are currently, at the time of me making this video, in the longest consolidation phase ever for Bitcoin. Ever. Every cycle that we've ever had, every movement, this is the longest one. And I think we know that logic is not completely at play. I should have had the actual tab here, but it's not that important. There was on my Twitter a couple of days ago, there was someone who posted, like, I mean, like exact reasoning as to why he believed or to why the market was not propelling upward. If I remember correctly, he said the way that it's working out, and this is once again, this is what this person said. He said that people are currently taking out long positions on the ETFs, on spot Bitcoin, Bitcoin. And they're taking out short positions on the futures. And he said because of this long and short in both directions that it actually creates a form of neutrality where they're creating extra amounts of liquidity within the market by making sure to be long Bitcoin and short essentially what people would call paper Bitcoin. So futures are typically always denominated in US dollars and not in actual Bitcoin. So it shows the price of Bitcoin on the screen, but the resolution and the payment for as well the actual futures is in US dollars, and therefore in essence it's creating extra Bitcoin that doesn't actually exist. So therefore we call it paper Bitcoin, similar to what people would call paper gold. So it's kind of like if you want to buy gold and you don't get the actual gold, they hand you a certificate and says, no, like this is gold. It's not gold. It's a paper version of gold that you can make an infinite amount of. And this is the problem that a lot of people have with Bitcoin futures, because while there are only 21 million or could ever be 21 million Bitcoin, for futures, there's no real restriction. They can have essentially 100 million Bitcoin on paper, online, and sell that to people. And that's kind of the idea. So he said people are going short futures and long the BlackRock, the Fidelity, all these other ETFs, and is creating a form of neutrality where imagine like a sphere or globe in the middle. And according to him, he said the only thing that's going to actually break this tension, break this thing, is we need a huge inflow of money that is basically neutral as well, that is not long, that is not short, into the market. It kind of causes a huge amount of volatility. We go down, the longs get messed up, we go really high, the shorts get flushed out, and therefore we're kind of ready to go. The problem, I think, for the average everyday layman is that we, and I mean to a certain degree, I assume none of us here, maybe there's one, hello to you, are any type of economic world leader forum. We haven't given any speeches. We're not, economic professors, if you will. So we understand the idea of supply and demand. We see that Bitcoin supply, especially on exchanges, we're going to get to that, continues to drop. We see that the demand, even if it's remaining relatively similar, is incredibly high. We keep getting news of hundreds of millions of dollars flowing into the ETFs every single day. The amount of Bitcoin on exchanges continues to drop. Historically, and I love saying that word because I've been here long enough. I think years ago you could have been like, okay, whatever. I've been in this market for the better half of a decade. The better half. More or less a decade. Cool. I've had this channel for around 8 years. Going over, as I've said before, going over daily news on a topic is a very powerful thing. Because I've seen all the lies, I've seen all the tricks, I've seen all the movements, I've seen all the cycles, I've seen all the excuses, I've seen everything that everyone has had to say, what coins to get into, when the market's going to move, when this is going to happen, how this is going to take place. And everyone has generally always been wrong. There's been one or two people who've been right a couple of times, but we're at the point where the squeeze is now affecting like retail, like everyday normal people. And I think it's setting up for something very negative. I do not know if that's a majestic move downward. I don't know if it's going to be more infighting on Twitter and online. But the market is well overdue for a movement. We are in, now once again, you can show me charts until it's Christmas. You can tell me every single thing that Warren Buffett had to say. I'm seeing people on, this is how I know that like the market is like reacting to this in a negative way. People are literally digging for quotes from like economists from the 80s and from Warren Buffett and from his friend who passed, talking about, well, the market does this and this is so and you should be afraid and this is you should be not. And I'm like, okay, I see that people are kind of like looking for any thing that they can to try and make sense of something that's nonsensical. You can show all of us these things as much as you want. And I tip my hat to you, sir, for trying to explain longs and shorts and neutrality and all these other things. The market's not making any sense to anyone right now. And that's also, I say that because I'm digging back until March when prices began to falter, go sideways, Bitcoin hit 73 and began to trend downward up until that point. As long as I've been in this market, we have never experienced something like this. And I'm not talking about your beautiful charts. We have a situation where there's hundreds of millions of dollars flowing into our market daily. And I even make sure to check the news. A lot of times there's been news, I want to say 4 or 5 days, roughly, in the past couple of months where the ETF inflows have become negative or were zero, which I also think is a majestic sign of manipulation. When you talk about you had $800 million worth of inflows 4.5 days ago, and now there's zero interest, there's $0 flowing into your ETFs, that also doesn't make any sense. There's no normal people. You understand what that means to have a $0 inflow? That means no one was interested. Why was everyone interested for 123 days before, and then the next day, zero? No one touched that fund. Also, red flaggy to me. But even if you account for the days of outflows and the constant days of inflows. And once again, the constant conversation is around what's happening with the ETFs. The ETFs aside for once, imagine we did not have the ETFs. Where would our market be right now? Answer logically. We're past the halving. Bitcoin is officially rarer than the US dollar and gold. Historically, every single market cycle, regardless of what's happening, and this is, once again, we now have 450 Bitcoin coming out of the machine daily, 450. We were here when there was 900 coming out of the system. We were here when there was 1,800 coming out of the system. That at that time was also still scarce. So understand 450 is low, but 1,800 for a very scarce asset is also super low. And even with, if you decide to say that 1,800 per day is, oh my gosh, so much Bitcoin, we still moved up in price on news that people, we used to have news years ago that some company was getting into the space, they were going to buy Bitcoin. And over the course of a month went by, all this Bitcoin was created onto the network, and that company bought 3 days out of a month of the Bitcoin that had been created, and we would pump. Why? Because that other Bitcoin, that other 1,800 Bitcoin, first of it, all of it didn't hit the market. That's what people keep forgetting. Those coins aren't all hitting the market. There was news a day or two ago that people who are mining Bitcoin sold off to keep some of the lights on, and they were like, 80 million Bitcoin just hit the market. Are we going to cascade it? I'm like, no, you idiot. They have to sell their coins. That's how they keep the electricity flowing. So when they do sell off those coins, it's not the entirety of what's actually being mined. The other people around the world, that other whales exist. You all remember that, right? Remember before the ETFs, we had normal whales and normal people buying half a Bitcoin, a tenth of a Bitcoin, one 100th of a Bitcoin. And we kept on getting news that the amount of Bitcoin that was being mined was still disappearing on a daily basis. You must remember this news. So when we are getting news now, this is why I think so many people are frustrated. If we saw that 1,800 Bitcoin was being created per day and was still being swept up, there was no news of 13x, 26x, x Bitcoin being that 1,800 alone was being taken off the table daily. And we were going up by 5 or 6% because that's how supply and demand works. Once again, show me all your charts for as long as you can. You can make your charts as pretty as humanly possible. If we're talking about back then 50 million people or so being into crypto, being into Bitcoin, buying these coins, and the prices go up. And we had some days where, some company bought 300 Bitcoin. Some company bought 115 Bitcoin. And we recognize that that's still lower than the 1,800 that's being created. And we still moved up in price. Supply, demand. The demand is quite heavy, and we know that because of all the nonsense from Japan, from South Korea, the kimchi premium, the movements that we saw in India, all the stuff that we're still seeing right now. So when you change the narrative and make sure that the world has to run by your narrative, and you say, well, now the most important thing is the ETFs. That's what we got to focus on. That's the only thing in the news. Keeping in mind, for everyone who forgot, central banks are buying Bitcoin. And also, this is spot. I'm not talking about ETF. Countries are buying Bitcoin. Banks are buying Bitcoin. Central banks are buying Bitcoin. When MicroStrategy and Cathy Wood and all these other companies are buying Bitcoin, they're also buying spot. They have ETF allocations, but we know that they're holding spot, like physical, if you will, physical Bitcoin, and they're buying all the time. Jack Dorsey, for those of you who missed it, years ago said that every day he maxes out every single platform that he uses to accumulate Bitcoin. He said he maxes it out every single day. So he's buying millions of dollars, as far as we know, as far as what he's told us, worth of dollars of Bitcoin every single day. So if we hear that Bitcoin, so daily coming out supply was 1,800, and now we're at 450. And we know without a shadow of a doubt, those 450 not only are they not hitting the market, they're being accumulated like that. Immediately, fast, cool, gone. That's why everyone's upset right now. Because we know that Bitcoin's price is supposed to be higher and that it's being suppressed in some sort of way. When you talk about remember when there were 900 Bitcoin being created per day. This was before the halving. This was in January. And we were getting news that the amount of accumulation by these ETF issuers, they were, what was it? I think some days were around $500 million, some were 670 billion, and we had that one amazing day of 880 million US dollars. We leveled out generally between 300 million and around 600 or so million. That was usually like the bouncing off point that we had. Remember those days where we got news around, $500 million that these ETF issuers alone were accumulating 13 times, that's 13x, the amount of Bitcoin that was being created when we had 900 coins per day. Everyone still with me? Remember, what was happening to prices? Prices were going up. Why were they going up so fast? Because they were accumulating 13 times the amount of Bitcoin that was being created daily. Everyone still with me? This 900 coins per day. We go down to 450 coins per day. They're accumulating the same amount of numbers daily. And we are only talking about the ETF issuers. We go down to 450 Bitcoin per day. These companies are essentially accumulating 20 to 26 times the amount of Bitcoin created per day. Sorry. Everyone still with me? Then we get to the point where inflows slowed down. We had grayscale news. X, Y, and Z is happening. We had a couple of bad days, maybe I think even 2 weeks of bad. No, what's happening? Inflows. And then the inflows picked right back up between $100 and $300 million every single day. The news then turns to, well, this is terrible. This is, we're not getting the same amount of money that we were getting before, and we can point to the fact that we're getting the same amount of money that was flowing in before. It may not be 700 million, but it's still 300 million. And then when the inflows would turn to around 150, 180 million over the course of that day, everyone would become negative and prices would go down. And I was like, no, No. Someone's lying. Very explicitly. Someone's doing something. And once again, show me all the charts. Show me everything. But we're at the point where the market actually has to move. Because, well, this is my opinion, and it might sound a little bit insane, but I mean, if you're here at this point, then you already know what the channel's like. I'm a gigantic advocate, and I've noticed that a lot of other people are not. I see the last couple of days, I've learned that people are different. We have different life experiences. A lot of people are completely willing to knock their friends and their family members out of this market for a chance at some type of money. I'm a gigantic advocate of I think that Bitcoin is for everyone, is for the modern person, is for the people, for 8 billion people. And a lot of other people don't feel that way. There are a lot of people who want this consolidation to continue, because what's happening is that a lot of normal people are leaving the market. It's a huge amount of frustration. The world has changed, and things are more difficult now than they've ever been. Things are more expensive, and people have a lot more stress than they had before. And with this, we're seeing the actual decrease in the amount of short-term holders, people who've been in the market for around 6 months or so, who bought into the market, waiting for something spectacular to happen, and they see that the market is going down. And the reason why they have to sell is, well, because they have rent, they have car payments, they have to pay for gas, they have to pay for their car, they have to pay for insurance, all of them. They have to pay for daycare. All these things are happening. And I can see the sliminess and the greed like really pushing forward. And once again, this isn't everyone. This isn't, this isn't a blanket thing. But I'm noticing like exactly what people will do or the lengths that they'll go to just to make sure that they procure wealth and money and fame and fortune at the detriment of other people who are, also in this market. But that's another conversation, definitely for another time. There's a lot happening, and I think it's almost too much happening. The only thing that I can make sense of is that the world has changed and is going to continue changing. We're talking about something really crazy here. We're talking about the demise of the US dollar. We're talking about the inflation that's being celebrated when it goes from 3.5 to 3.4. And everyone's jumping up and down as if the Fed has actually done something, when you know that that's not the actual inflation rate. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars daily, transparently moving into our market. And also for those of you who missed it, those numbers that we went over were just for the ETFs. Just the ETFs. There's still other people and companies and institutions buying Bitcoin daily all the time. Our prices should have moved up, and we should be a lot higher than we currently are right now. The way that the world is morphing, and I went over it, I'm not going to go over it completely again. When it comes to real estate, when it comes to assets, when it comes to crypto and who's owning all of these things, we are in for a wild ride because we are witnessing the haves and the have-nothings. It's happening. It's rolling out right in front of us, regardless of if you decide to not see that or not. And the frustration for a lot of people, and more so in my corner, is knowing how many people are normal people around the world are getting into this market because they see that inflation is destroying them and their paycheck and anything that they have to do. And that our market should have moved up already. Literally around 60 days ago, and I'm going to show you those numbers as well. 60 days ago, we should have begun moving up already. We should actually, at this point, be over $100,000. And to see these people leaving the market, my friend, one of my friends, we were having dinner once again, and he said we were talking about the state of the market, how things weren't moving. And he was saying how frustrated he is. With things going on in life, with work, yada, yada, yada. This market is essentially a way for him to like have a brand new life. And he was like, I know that the market will eventually move up, but it's the waiting. It's the daily. It's the looking at the charts and seeing that nothing is moved. It's us sharing news in our group chat. And I'm like, this country's buying Bitcoin. This is happening with Bitcoin. The inflows were $300 million and this other company is buying Bitcoin. And he says he would go check the charts and he would see that prices are down by 2%. He can hang on. It's difficult, but he can hang on within the market. But for everyone else, I told you, it's the same exact thing when it comes to my views. I can tell when the market is going down. Some days I don't look at prices because it's not that important to me. But I can look at my views. Some days I'll have like 33,000 views on a video. The next day it's like 28,000. Then it goes to 23,000. Then it goes to 21,000. Then some days I have like 18,000. I go, okay, well, the market has gone down. Like I know that prices, those days, like when we're only getting super good news. And I'm like, okay, like I know that the market has slipped because the people are losing interest, and they lose interest very fast because this is essentially a doorway. This is a doorway for millions of people to have some kind of like economic help, which is what we're also seeing with the entire GameStop thing. I think a part of that, the whole GameStop and GME thing is similar to 2020 and 2021 with people realizing or even seeing, we saw this, that people were making, we had these stories of these people. I made $65,000 from GameStop. I can finally do stuff around the house. I can relax for a little bit. I can help my dog. I can help my family. It's those kind of things. But it's like crypto is kind of that, but like to the max. And right. So I personally don't know when this market's going to move. I have a lot of it's interesting. Thank you for having trust in me. I don't know. People keep asking me when the market's going to move, and I'm like, dude, if I knew, I would give you the time and the date. I would give you the hour so we could have a live stream and we could all sit here together and do a kumbaya and see the prices go up exactly when I said it. I forgot the thing that was even on the screen. A lot of the news today, a lot of the analyses currently happening are people talking about that apparently Bitcoin has gotten to some point where prices are literally about to move. We've had that news for about a good 6-7 weeks at the moment. People are now, and this guy in particular, Gert van Lagen, is talking about that Bitcoin has just completed something called, once again, the cup and handle, and Bitcoin is going to surge to $300,000 or something along those lines. The numbers that I'm seeing, the people who have these charts, we're all on the same page. I come from a technical side where I'm like, how many people are in the market? How much Bitcoin is on exchanges, being moved off of exchanges? How many people are using it? How many people are buying it? ETF inflows. You can also do the outflows if you want. How many people are buying? Bitcoin's incredibly healthy from this perspective. And from the standard of charts and all these other things and the cup and handles and the Bart Simpsons and the volcanoes and all these other numbers and things that are going on, everyone's chart says the same thing. It's all bullish. And that's what I think is also an issue as well. If you are retail, if you're a normal person and you're in this market and you're hearing daily bullish movement, go up. How many days have we gone over analysts and people with their charts, and I mean on a daily basis, talking about the market and where it's supposed to go, and everyone saying the exact same thing? So here's the chart for everyone who was wondering. This is the cup, and this is we've gotten to this apparent tight range, and I've seen a couple of these, not this cup thingy, but a lot of people are saying that the still expectations of a $120,000 Bitcoin by mid-July. I would love to believe it. I know in my heart of hearts, having been in this market, something eventually has to give. It has to give. And it is going to give at some point. But I'm kind of just sitting back and waiting at this point. It's all that I can do. I don't have the levels of money of Fidelity or BlackRock to be able to move the market as much as I wish. But it's kind of like the numbers are still rolling in. Everyone thinks that we are going to hit these spectacular, fantabulous numbers over the course of the summer. I saw one person and I literally couldn't roll my eyes enough. They almost fell out of my head. I saw someone saying that this level of accumulation and consolidation is going to continue until September. And I was like, you got another thing coming to you, because the market would completely fall by the time we get to like August. People are exhausted at this point. Like, they've exhausted. Anyone who sold has sold. This is usually what they try and do. Like the idea of like shaking the tree, making sure that the apples fall, that the unsecure leaves fall off the tree. Everyone who's here is here. You got to let it rip and roar at some point. And then I saw this one and I was like, yeah, it feels this way as well. For those of you not looking at the screen, it says an historical analysis reveals that the lead up to the Bitcoin halving event in 2020, there was a 21-day consolidation phase, which preceded substantial selling pressure. This ultimately pushed Bitcoin to a record high of $69,000 by November the following year. Currently, Bitcoin has been relatively stable since it reached an all-time high on the 13th of March, and we are currently in a 92-day consolidation period. This is the longest that Bitcoin has ever consolidated, has ever trended sideways, has ever gone down after the halving period. When I say that people who've been in the market for years in multiple cycles know that something is amiss, something's awry, something's not right, it's that. We've gone through instances before where after 20 to 30 days, of the halving, we always go down. There's always like a sell the news kind of event, but then we prop back up. Why? Because we're no longer at 3,600 Bitcoin per day. We're at 1,800 per day. We're no longer at 1,800. We're at only 900 Bitcoin per day, and people have continued to buy. We're no longer at 900 Bitcoin per day. We're at 450. And the buying has been stronger than ever. It's not just the ETFs who were buying. There are millions of people around the world. There are companies and institutions. There's also other news. We're not going to get to it today. There's other news of these companies who are buying daily 115 Bitcoin, 3,000 Bitcoin. Like the buying is substantial daily. So to keep getting the news, well, the ETF issuers are shorting and longing, that may be true. But we're at the point where like the market's going to crack. And people are already losing their minds online. And I keep seeing people say the longer that we consolidate, the higher we're going to go up. Buddy boy, the accumulation level that we have right now, we've been coiling for so long, we're basically going to hit $1 million by September. You can't have this level of accumulation and then the market ends up going nowhere. It literally cannot happen. Where's the other thing? Is it even here? Maybe it's also right here. Ah, gosh, where is it? I don't know where it is. There's some other. Oh, that sucks so much. I could have sworn that I had it here. Oh wait, no, got it. It's right here. Hold on. It's this one right here. So the news is that a lot of whales have been buying Bitcoin. Cool. Shocking, right? Didn't know that. Where are the actual numbers? Here we go. This is from Sentiment. For those of you not looking at the screen, it says Bitcoin's supply on exchanges has now dropped to its lowest level since December 2021. There are only according to Sentiment, there are only 942,000 Bitcoin left on exchanges. They say, meanwhile, Ethereum and Tether are moving back on. Tether is actually, once again, we know like the people need Tether to be able to trade. Historically, there is less drop-off risk for all crypto, while Bitcoin's available supply to be sold is limited. Tell me what's significant about 942,000 Bitcoin, except for the fact that that's how low we were when we had the last bull run. Can anyone please tell me? How many Bitcoin have the ETFs accumulated in 4 months? It was over 1 million Bitcoin. For those of you who didn't know that number, it's now officially well over 1 million Bitcoin that these ETFs alone accumulated since January. If they continue this level of accumulation, by the time we get to September, they will have over 2 million Bitcoin. Everyone still with me? There's only 942,000 Bitcoin left on exchanges. All that Bitcoin is not liquid. You can't sit here and you can't tell us long and short, cup and handle, Bart Simpson, volcano, golden cross, and have that try and make sense to us. Once, cool, got it. I get it. It makes sense. Fantastic. But when we talk about logic, it's on the screen. We're at as few coins as the last bull run, which tells me that when the market does eventually sometime in the future pick up, we're going to get to a point where there's literally only 200 to 300,000 Bitcoin actually left on exchanges. Because for those of you who missed it, while buying is already hyper high right now, it's only going to increase as prices increase and people start taking their coins off of the exchanges. The illusion is that every coin on a crypto exchange is liquid, that those coins are for the taking. They're not. There are people who use crypto exchanges similar to a bank account, and they leave their coins on there with no intention of selling because they have their coins in multiple places, on multiple laptops, on multiple computers, on ledgers, hardware devices. You mean to tell me these 9 companies bought over 1 million Bitcoin in 4 months? Over another 1 million and plus change Bitcoin got taken off of exchanges in the last year. When you account for the millions of people in this market who are still buying crypto, them buying, that buying pressure caused us to go down in price. Do you understand? I can't explain my annoyance when we get news about the Fed and interest rates and inflation and all these other things, and we get news that less people applied for unemployment. Inflation rate went down by 0.1% and all these other things. And people talk about, yeah, Bitcoin's going to go up. I'm like, you think that that's what Bitcoin needs to go up? It's right in front of you. When we get all that news and then subsequently a couple of hours later, the stock market goes down and Bitcoin goes down, it's maddening to see that we've gotten to the point in this market where literally nothing makes sense. I understand the charts. I understand the words. They're all in English. I get it. I get market movements. I get the market so-and-so. I get the cycles. But what a lot of people don't understand is that we should be far higher in price based off of general fundamentals. You can tell me about paper Bitcoin all day. You can tell me about the ETF inflows. But based off of everything that we're seeing, everything that's happening, there's no way that you can convince me that we shouldn't be higher. 92 plus days of us moving sideways and moving down with all this accumulation happening. And at this point, the shebang better be the best thing that we've ever witnessed. If we've been coiling for 90 days, if there's almost no liquid Bitcoin left on exchanges, if there's no new Bitcoin entering crypto exchanges, I saw some smart aleck continuously saying it over and over. He wrote something along the lines of, he's like, are you not understanding like there's always going to be new Bitcoin in exchanges? The people who are selling their Bitcoin are the people who are new to the market. They're the normal people who you should be happy are getting into the market. You are so willing to hand your money and your life over to BlackRock and Fidelity and to these companies and to the central banks. You should be happy that there are normal people in this market. If you hand over everything, if you hand over all the Bitcoin, if you're happy about these ETFs for every single coin, in 15 years, it'll be the exact same market that we're trying to get away from. It's the exact same thing. These people already run the world. Why do you want them to run crypto? You make fun of people calling them weak hands and weak so-and-so. Get out of the market. We don't need you. It has an effect. These people leave the market. And then we end up in situations where these people in 3 months accumulate 1 million coins and you stand next to them and pat them on the back and go, good job. Bitcoin's not meant for them. It's so crazy to see what's happening. It's so insane that people are trying to justify the fact that we should be higher in price, but they go, oh no, it's just long and shorts. It's cup and handles. No, it's Bart Simpson. No, it's the Golden Cross. Like we haven't crossed the Golden Cross yet, but the cross is going to be crossing soon. Looking for an excuse. You're looking for an excuse as to why the market hasn't moved because you know that something is also off. You know that we should be a lot higher, but you can't admit it. So you find another chart, you find another explanation, you find somebody from the 70s, you find somebody from the 80s. People are finding articles. People are finding articles from the 80s, from old magazines, screen like the photo of it. Well, this economist said because, when you have a futures and when you have a this, it causes, and I'm like, do you hear yourself? You got to call out the BS. You have to. You have to, you have to, you have to, you have to, you have to. Something is off. And this is crazy. This is insane because I remember we had this same situation when this was years ago. I don't remember when this was. I think we had a consolidation period of like 38 days. And I remember the market was over it. The market was like, because it was so unusual. It was so unnatural. We knew that something was completely off, and then the market began to slowly move back up over the course of weeks. There is literally almost no Bitcoin left. The illusion in front of you is 942,000. That's a lie. Those coins aren't liquid. What's being mined is, if it is being sold, it's being sold to central banks. We know that news ourselves. Any over-the-counter Bitcoin is being accumulated by these ETFs. And all the other Bitcoin that's being taken off the market is, there are wealthy people around the world, right? There are family offices that are literally just allocating millions of dollars per month into this asset class because their family's worth $17 billion. Like, it means almost nothing to them. When I talk about the Bitcoin that's going to be left, it's going to be Satoshis. We are going to be in another scenario where the rich own everything and have everything. Do you understand what what it's going to mean when Bitcoin hits $1.78934276 million and MicroStrategy has 200,000 Bitcoin? That the ETFs are then holding trillions upon trillions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. These other companies, these family offices and institutions. And then we are going to get to a point where, this is what I was asking you before. Do you tell people about the market? And I meant it. Do you keep this information to yourself, or do you share it with other people? Because I know sometimes sharing this information with other people can be like a daunting task. You're trying to get people to understand inflation, interest rates, market movements, why Bitcoin is deflationary, what decentralization means, and all these other things. But do you tell people what's happening? Do you let them know? Do you alert them that there's almost no Bitcoin left? That these huge banks are talking about a $1 million Bitcoin? That they're talking about, by the time we get to 2029 to 2032, a $3.5 million Bitcoin? It's because of the stuff that you're seeing on the screen. It's because there's not enough Bitcoin left for them. So then you have a situation where in the future, your family members are literally, I have nothing, because they don't have anything now. Nothing equates to nothing. It's so crazy what's happening. This is why, a lot of times when people lose faith in crypto, I'm like, and people who are in the market, I'm like, what are you talking about? We go over this news daily, every single day. At some point, this 942,000 coins is going to be 800,000. As far as, once again, when the market's going to move, I don't have any real hopes personally anytime soon. Am I accumulating still? All the time. I'm buying almost nearly nonstop, if you will. It's not, I'm not sorry for ranting, but it's like, you all see what's happening, right? I can't be the only one. I think the only remedy that's going to get us out of this position is we need to be above 100,000. Last point, a couple of years ago, this was years ago, there were all these analysts, and someone released something, I think when Bitcoin was at 28,000. And his reasoning, he was like, Bitcoin should be over $100,000 right now. He went over the numbers. He went over the metrics. He said, we reached 20,000 at this point. We reached 70,000 at that point. He was showing the network activity that was happening with Bitcoin and how we were 6, 7, 8x where we were before. The amount of it, he's like, we've never seen these levels of accumulation before. He said, mathematically, we should be well over 100,000 just based off of accumulation, who's in the market, network usage. Remember the numbers that we were getting? This was years ago as well, of over $1 trillion per month is being processed through Bitcoin. He's like, no, those numbers equate to $100,000 Bitcoin. And every time that we try to get close, we for some reason can't do it. We can't move up properly. We're not doing the so-and-so. We got to wait for this to happen. This cup and handles isn't doing this. And I've heard all of it. I've heard all of it for years, or just about a decade. Just about a decade. It has to be logic at some point. There has to be something that enters the market. Something has to happen, because this would not happen for any other asset class. When you talk about for stocks and stuff like that, there are sometimes hundreds and millions upon millions of stocks issued for certain things. We know that Bitcoin is hyper finite. You can't do this to any other asset. You understand what I'm saying? You literally cannot buy 1 million of something when there's only 4 million of it available for the public. You can't buy 25% of the supply and then have prices go down, regardless of what's happening, especially when the public actually takes notice. You can't keep buying something and then the price goes down and you go, well, it's because they're buying with the futures and they're spotting with the longs. I've exhausted myself, completely exhausted myself. This video was supposed to have been about something completely different. I'm exhausted now. So, right. Whales are draining cryptocurrency exchanges. There's not a lot of Bitcoin left for you or for me or for all the other rich people. There's not the possibility of every millionaire and every billionaire owning an entire Bitcoin. It is mathematically, and has been for a while, impossible. There's no chance on the planet that everyone on this world is going to get to ever own as much Bitcoin or crypto as you currently own. It is mathematically impossible. Even when we have outflow days or those really weird $0 inflow days, they're still, when the inflows pick back up, they're buying hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin daily. We're currently at the point where our consolidation doesn't make any sense. I'm not sure if you can even see this over here. It's kind of cut off. It says Bitcoin whales scoop up $1.4 billion in 24 hours amid market correction. So, all the analysts are quite adamant that prices are going to move back up, that prices are going to do great, they're going to be fantastic. Money, 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 dollar, dollar bills, y'all. That entire thing. At some point, it has to give. I still have faith in the market, but it's definitely one of those I've stepped back and I'm just looking at this point. We should have been over 100K. When we had that pump over the first 3 months after the ETFs, we should have pushed rapidly over $100,000. Rapidly. We should be around $120,000, $150,000 just based off of the news, if nothing more than what I gave you in this video. We're talking about a point where analysts are talking about we might be done with cycles because there's so little Bitcoin left that if any actually enters the market, it gets scooped up. You are going to have friends and family members in a couple of years when they get it who are going to tell you how happy they are that they own 50,000 Satoshis. I was just asking that on Twitter. I was asking if anyone has a new revamped version. The number used to be before, if you're holding 0.28 Bitcoin, you're part of the 1% of Bitcoin holders. That was in like 2017, 2018. They're buying up too much Bitcoin that has gotten to the point where that number has decreased rapidly. It's probably somewhere, realistically, is probably like if you have 0.12 Bitcoin, you're in the 1%. Because the more that they accumulate, the less that anyone else holds puts you in the 1%. If that puts you in the 1% of Bitcoin holders, What happens if you have 15 Bitcoin? If you have 8,000 Bitcoin? If your company is holding 200,000 Bitcoin? You're richer than countries. Pay attention to what's happening. Sorry, I know that you are. Like, I understand. I get it. You know how difficult it is not to curse? Do you understand? Like, it's literally like doing the Matrix during this video. Like, nonstop. Like, I'm in a constant back-bending kind of motion. This is crazy what's going on. We've never had this before. If we didn't have the ETFs and it was just normal levels of accumulation, I know we'd be a lot higher. So to hear 1 million plus Bitcoin it's gone. It's from the ETFs. And then even getting news that these other companies in countries are mining Bitcoin and they're buying spot. It's nuts. I want the market to be filled with normal people, and that's not what the rich people want. This is why we're seeing this entire GameStop fiasco again. Why they keep halting trading. Why do you think they're halting trading? Because normal people are making money. They literally don't want normal people to make money. The point is to consume and to get rid of your savings, get rid of the money that you're holding so that you have nothing, that you are at the behest of the owner, of the landowner, of the owner of the apartment, that you have to get into debt to do anything. The idea of normal people making money is terrifying. If more people understood that and got into our market or got into any kind of investing, we live in a very different world. They want everything for themselves. And when you see that at play, when you see these people, I thought we'd have a whole different market because everyone saw these rich people getting into the market. I thought it would almost inspire normal people to be like, now's the time. We got to make money as well. Like, we have to do something. And it's the exact opposite. People are leaving the crypto market and they're giving all their coins to BlackRock, the company that already owns the world. And then in 2038, when we have a $17 million Bitcoin and people's rent has skyrocketed $10,000 a month and they can barely holding on, I'm going to sit there and be annoyed because I personally know it sounds stupid. Like, sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough. Like, I could only do so much. I'm only one person. It's nuts. Do you remember years ago when the SEC had, they were asking for public opinion? For those of you who weren't here, they were asking for public opinion on an ETF. We now know that, like, Gary Gensler and his goons didn't care about what we had to say. But on the website, you could see that other ETFs, like, when they allowed, like, the public to talk about them or to discuss them on their website, some of them had like 2 messages, maybe 1 message. Some of them maybe had 3, where people being like, I think this should be an ETF, so and so and so. And we heard in crypto that they were allowing public our comments on the actual ETFs. And it made news because I think thousands of people in crypto had written like emails and letters to the SEC and were writing on the SEC's website under the actual like Bitcoin ETF proposal to let it go through. We have the strength in numbers. We make this market. It's us. It's not the rich, but it is us. We were here before them and we're going to be here after them. We are the market. Tell people about this space. Get them into crypto. Let them understand. If you have an inkling, last point, if you have an inkling that you are going to make 6-7 figures from this bull run and it's going to change your life, change someone else's life as well. They're not taking money away from you. That's a very weird misconception. They're not going to take some of your money away. Them being in the market is going to strengthen the market, and it's also going to make them rich as well. One of my major things, especially like for those of you who don't know, I retired years ago, like retired. I have the crypto channel. It's not a hobby anymore. Like, I guess it is almost like it's a thing I'm doing daily. It's a job, what have you. But I retired from things, like normal retirement a number of years ago. And my main thing was to make sure that I got all my friends into finance, into making money, into something at some sort of way. It's going to sound very first worldy. Going on vacations alone is terrible. So I made sure all my friends, I got them into, made sure that they were all working digitally. They're all working online so we can all travel together and we can all, have fun together. As like you've seen my travel videos and stuff before. I made sure that they all got into the markets years ago, made money and flip it, invest it, buy property. So I want my friends to have money with me. I want us to all win. I want us to all succeed. I don't want it to just be me and I go, well, you missed out, weak hands. No, I want 15 of my friends to be like, let's go to the Bahamas because we can do it. I want us all to succeed. It's so crazy to see what's happening in this market. Yeah. That's definitely going to do it for this video. I know something will give at some point. I know it will. When, I can't tell you. I wish I could, but alas, here we are. Hope you're all hanging in there. Hope you're all having a good day. I tell you all, and I've been saying it more and more often. I know stuff is weird right now. Try and find time to do something nice for yourself. I know it sounds cheesy and corny. I don't care what you think. Do something nice for yourself. I don't care if it's taking a bath, listening to music. Music really helps me a lot as well. Like I've been listening to like a lot of like childhood music. Find music from your childhood. It is crazy to have that nostalgia like rush over you. Just make sure that you're trying to remain calm and okay during all this market madness, but we will prevail. As cheesy as that sounds, but something is up. 92 days is diabolical. That's the craziest thing in the world. I do hope you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, supporting, just being here. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.